this is a transformational funding package for the Alaska Range project. There's no question about that. There's a suite of 5 years starting this year. We're already in it, and it aims to deliver in the order of 40 million or 39 million US dollars, which is in the order of 60 million Australian dollars. Bear in mind, PolarX's market capitalisation at the moment sits at around 40 billion, so it's quite a big step. I think the thing that's most important is who it's with. It's with Northern Star, one of the most successful startup miners, certainly in this country for many, many years, but they're in Alaska in the same place we are. So they're already there, they're already operating, they know how to build these things, they know how to mine these things. So it's not just generic money, it comes with a partner who's active in the region, and it seeks to ultimately create something that's big enough to make a difference for them as well. So it's one of those win-win kind of deals. They get an exploration team and a massive package of land, which we sit on. Our exploration team headed by Dr. Jason Burton, who's out there right now, and we get a partner who can actually run the distance and create a mine at the end of this joint venture, is the aim here. We've already got some. We've got a $2 million US loan already from Northern Star. That's allowed us to get out on ground. So the team are out there now. They've been there for weeks. We run 24 hours a day while we're drilling on site because it's daylight nearly all day in Alaska this time of the year. That will be followed when shareholders meet for PolarX in the next few weeks to approve the transaction, another $3 million US. Which, when you in Aussie dollar terms, is just under $8 million for this season. So 5 for this year. Next year will be subject to budgeting later this year, payable in March 31, 2026, so only 6 months away. That'll be another 6 million US, which is nearly 9 million Australian. So 17 million Australian to go in the ground in the next 2 seasons. This season's almost done. The next one hasn't started yet. So that's a big uplift. Year 3 is 8 million US, or nearly 12 Aussie, and years 4 and 5 are both 10 and 10 US per year, which is $15 million Aussie per year. So they're big licks. The structure is such that we become joint venture partners immediately. We'll initially be 85%. They'll be 15%. It's run by a board, the subsidiary that owns these assets. 2 of their people, 2 of ours. People vote in accordance with their relative shareholders' percentages they represent. The joint venture can stop at any stage, in which case the percentages we have, we continue with, and each contributes going forward. But I think at the moment, the prognosis and the intent is to grow something large enough that it needs all of this money and some over the next few years. Again, good question. We've been very busy for the last 6 weeks or so, with a few weeks still to run until it starts snowing. Jason Burton and team have been out there for some time. As I said, it's 24 hours a day on the rig. What's different this year is it's not just drilling. We are extending what we've got at Caribou Dome in particular this year. But the difference this year has done an enormous amount of regional work, really seeking to find more Caribou Domes, more Zacklys, things that can really move the needle, and potentially much larger deposits than the ones we're drilling at the moment is really what we're after. So unlike the way we've done things in the past due to constrained budgets, we will have a budget going forward that can bring in these enormous regional possibilities and be able to follow them up. To that end, we've literally flown the entire project now for both topography, photography, and magnetics. That has given us a lot of incredibly detailed data, and we've already had a team out there with a helicopter pursuing some of those early things, taking rock samples and ground we've never been on before, notwithstanding it's all our tenure. We've never been on some of it before. With some really exciting indications already coming from that. So in the background, the rig crew is completely separate. They are at the moment trying to push Caribou into a bigger project than it was with our last scoping study. We will come away from this year with an enormous amount of follow-up work for next year. So I think in particular, 2026 is going to be an absolute groundbreaking year for us. Well, those two specifically, we have a sort of an in-house promise together with Northern Star that we turn up a project that's at least 30,000 tonnes of copper equivalent per year for 10 years or more. We don't think we're too far off that with our existing resources, and we're reasonably confident that we can extend that to 30,000 tonnes copper equivalent per year with a degree of ease. In gold terms, that would be about 100,000 ounces of gold equivalent, if you like, over the same 10-year period. So it doesn't need to be enormous. And the reason it doesn't is we are on spectacularly good copper grade. We have 5% copper from surface at Caribou Dome. And the more of that we can find in one place right now, the better, right? We already know from the scoping study work we did last year that you can effectively, at current copper prices, pretty much pay for a plant in the first year, and all the rest is home free, where you're just banking the money based on operating costs, not having to pay plant back any longer. So, it's a very, very robust project because of the grade. Of course, bigger is better, and that takes money to make it bigger, and that's what we're about at the moment. Outside of that, as I said earlier, let's not forget the regional scale. We've never had a budget to do that before. If you're going to find a monster, you need a budget to do that. And we are set about as early as we can to get out there and find something even bigger on our tenure at the same time.